This is the CineSnob Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 323 of the CineSnob Podcast. My name is Cody Villafana. I am joined here today by Kiko Martinez and Jocelyn Durand, and we are here recording this episode of the podcast on April 20th, Sunday, which is Easter Sunday, which is appropriate because tomorrow, April 21st, CineSnob.net is being resurrected and coming back from the dead. Our much talked about and anticipated website relaunch happens tomorrow, and today we've been putting the finishing touches on everything, and it's basically ready to go, ready to hit the big red button to make it live. Kiko, this has been a couple of months of prep and thought and work. You and I were over here at my house the other day figuring things out, and
having a bunch of mimosas.
Yeah, we had that was most of it. I taught you things that you didn't remember, and you had to ask me about later.
Wait, what are we talking about now? What's going on?
Anyway.
Yeah, and so how are you feeling now that we're on the eve of launch?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You said that it was about a couple of months, but I mean, we've been thinking about doing this for more than probably 2 or 3 years, right? I mean,
yeah.
We just, every time we run into each other, it's like, we got to update the site. We have to do something about the site, right? Yeah. And like I said, when COVID came around in 2020, it was just like it lay dormant for a while, and we kind of like, not that we lost interest, but there was nothing to review, right? Nothing was coming out, and it kind of like just kind of fell by the wayside. So since 2020, we just kept on, talking about it, and finally, a couple of months ago, we're like, hey, we need to do something, right? Yeah. I think that we jumped on the ball, and we decided, this is the route we're going to take. We made a plan. We started hiring a couple of people to do certain things. I think it turned out great. I think we made some great decisions. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. There's a lot of other little things that we probably will want to add as time goes by, but I think it's at a good place right now where people are going to be able to go online, find our reviews very easily, and these are all going to be reviews from the podcast. We're kind of, I guess we're not saying that we're never going to write reviews again, because that can happen, to be honest with you, but everything that you find on the new CineSnob.net is going to be from the podcast, so it's going to be easy to jump on, find an actual full podcast audio for whatever movies are going to be playing at theaters that are theaters or on platforms that week. But then you can also break it down if you only want to see us listen to a certain type of review or certain review, you can go find that as well. Not to mention, we're kicking off a couple of new podcasts manned by me right now, but they're going to be 2 video interview podcasts. So that's going to be called CineSnob Sessions, nice. Where I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of non-Latino talent.
It's kind of racist, but okay.
I know a lot of people are pushing back on this DEI thing, right? I guess now's not a good. So we're doing that, but then also we're going to be pushing out one called Somos Hollywood, which is going to be covering all Latino talent that's currently in Hollywood and what they're doing right now. So I'm very excited. I've been covering Latino talent for 25 years almost, so that's pretty easy lift for me. Hopefully for CineSnob Sessions, we can get a lot of bigger stars to jump on and talk a little bit about what they're working on right now. So, yeah, we're covering a lot. We're going to be manning the ship a lot tighter this time around, and I think you'll like it. I think everybody will enjoy what we have to bring to this new platform. And to top it off, we just maybe a couple of weeks learned that the CineSnob Podcast is now part of Rotten Tomatoes. So anything that I say or anything that I post on the podcast, I can now transfer over to Rotten Tomatoes and get our grade in there. So hopefully that's a first step in getting both of you on the roster as well over there. So it took me 10 years to get on Rotten Tomatoes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it took me 10 years to get on Rotten Tomatoes, and then adding a couple of outlets here and there, and then now it went to the podcast. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
we're doing a good job, and hopefully
Y'all
it'll
are
just
doing
keep growing from there.
awesome. The
So-
website, I'm so excited about it. You guys are just like killing it, and I'm just
Yeah, and
excited.
you're a big part of it, Jocelyn, and
Well,
I'm
thank
so
you,
glad that
but-
I know you came in like during the time when I was kind of taking it easy, so you kind of helped the guys out a lot, and then you became a big part of the show. So I'm glad that
You
you're
needed
here.
a female perspective. It was just
Oh,
too
that's-
much throwing
for
out.
You know, Kiko, should we say the joke that you said to me when I told you that?
What's that? What joke?
He's like,
Oh.
I don't know.
You have to remember.
Oh, it was just that when Kiko was asked me about like how Jocelyn joined the show, and I
Yeah.
said that because me and Jared had been doing it for so long, there was not a lot of feminine energy, and then he said that I was providing it.
No.
And it was me and
Well,
Jared.
I did call you Pod Mom today.
You did call me Pod Mom. Yep.
He was organizing some like when we were gonna record, and he was being like I think very stern about something, and I was like, I know, Mom, and then I was like, Pod Mom.
Yeah.
So I can see that for sure.
like that.
So you're both
That's a
dunking on me.
compliment, though.
Thank you.
No, Cody, that is a compliment. You
Thank
are
you. You know what? I
very-
take it as a compliment. So.
Yes.
Thank
Well, we
you.
did change his title to managing editor, so we maybe need to do
Yeah.
a hyphen or something.
Hyphen Pod Mom.
/ Pod Mom. Yeah, that sounds good. But yeah, so I mean, I think main takeaways from this redesign is, when you go to CineSnob.net tomorrow or tonight, you'll see every single movie that we cover on the podcast split up into its own individual review. So previously you couldn't really, if you wanted to hear just one movie, or you didn't want to be spoiled or whatever, you would have to like fast forward through the podcast. Now you can click specific ones, and then there's going to be a video player in there that will, when you press it, you'll be able to watch just that review. It's going to queue up right to that review and cover that review. And so that's like the first big one going on. And then, like you said, Kiko, the interview section will now contain video interviews. You've been doing interviews for a really long time, and now they've never really been available in video form, or really in recent history on CineSnob. And so those will be available in video form, and you'll be able to find them there. And also, the podcasts are live now, so you should be able to go on wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and you can find CineSnob Sessions and Somos Hollywood on there right as we speak. And our archives are still there, so you can search our archives. You can look at old interviews and reviews that we've done that we wrote. Going
Yeah,
back,
real quick on that
Yeah.
on that archive, I know we're working on that really hard too, and getting our web designer to work on that. You know how you can click on the bottom? There was only 5 pages. Now there's 93 pages.
Yeah.
So that's like
There's-
there's like over
crazy.
1,000 archived written reviews that we've written in the past few years. That's nuts to me. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff, and I don't even know that those 93 pages cover everything, do they?
I don't think so
They
either.
can't
I'd have
possibly.
to go. I'd have to look and see how far back it actually goes, because
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I've got the website open here now.
Yeah, there's so many interviews that I've done that it's just like, because I mean, I'm mostly like a writer that just focuses on writing an article, so I've never been the one that's like, oh, I need to put this interview out, or this video clip out, or this audio out, and now it's going to be a little bit different. Not only so you can see my beautiful face a little bit more, of course, but
So you know what, Kiko? If we go back and find the earliest review available in the archives, it is 30 Days of Night, which came out in 2007.
wow, that's crazy.
So that's how far back the archives go for reviews. And then if we're looking at archived interviews, the earliest one in here by date is
Buster Keaton in 1920.
yeah.
That's funny.
Just
It's
kidding.
talking to someone from The Incredibles. Elizabeth, we still have to fix this, but Elizabeth something, maybe Pena.
Oh, the late Elizabeth Pena. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the earliest or the earliest interview that we have going back. So this is going back quite a ways here. And then we've got the Cineblog up. That's where you'll find kind of like the writing that we do. So like any festival coverage I do from South by, Fantastic Fest, top 10 lists, maybe the occasional story or two there. Those are all going to be in the Cineblog section. And
When we talked about the stunt design topic the other day, I just kind of turned it into an article. So
yeah,
and quoted all of us in it. So
and
I put a picture of Tom Cruise hanging from a helicopter just for you, Jocelyn.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah. So finally, we've got some stuff cooking, and really, I mean, yes, it was COVID, but also a little pre-COVID. We had stopped writing for the most part and switched to podcasting pretty exclusively. So it's nice to have the website. People are going to look at the archives and wonder what happened for 5-6 years. And then we also have to get
changed.
Yeah.
The entire world changed.
We also have to get rid of the unintentional joke too, which was funny for a while, that the last written review on the website was Palm Springs for like 4 or 5 years. So it fit nice with the repeating time loop.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's funny. We should have posted it once a week for 5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it was the top review in our little recent reviews for 5 years. like from when it came out until this year today. And I think it came out in 2020. I think it was a COVID movie. So it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. Oh well. Thanks, Andy Samberg.
Always. So anything to add? Anything that we didn't cover on the? Oh, you know what? Also, too, just to direct people, I would highly suggest that people also find us in multiple other places. Our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel where you're going to see all of Kiko's interviews. You'll see all of our full episodes of the podcast. There's some old interesting archive stuff, including a couple of episodes of Flickr footnotes from the WOAI studios that I think I'm in one of them. And then also there's like Jared's interview we did with Tommy Wiseau from The Room is in there, which is a lot of people compliment us on that interview, saying that it's the best interview with Tommy that they've ever seen before.
I was wondering
awesome.
how it went. That was my next question. Was like, how did that go?
I mean, it went how you thought it would go, but also people seem to really appreciate that a lot of like Jared managed to get a lot out of him. And that's not really an easy thing to do with Tommy.
I can't wait to see that now.
I failed miserably. I interviewed him during that time, but it was a phone interview, and it was an impossible interview. It did not go well at all.
Yeah,
So
I totally. Yeah.
He kept on telling me after
Next
he
question.
answered a question, he kept on saying next question.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, that's his move. But
did he do that with Jared too?
Well, I think so. But Jared's got a lot out of him, and that interview has 76,000 hits or views on YouTube and 242 comments, 792 likes.
That's awesome.
It's only the second to Kiko. Your interview with Baymax has 111,000 views on YouTube. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our most popular video by far. But Jared's is close by.
That's hilarious. So we're gonna have to get Baymax back on for the 10th anniversary or whatever it is, 15th maybe.
Yeah. Jocelyn, have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. I have seen The Room, of course. My dad's name is Mark, so
Oh, you hit him with a
Gaetan
lot
and I
of
are
oh hi marks.
constantly like, oh, hey, Mark.
That's awesome.
Oh, hi, Mark. Like, we're
So-
constantly quoting that.
On our
And no one gets it but me and Gaetan.
That's hilarious.
so
Yeah.
on our YouTube page, Kiko interviewed. So have you seen Big Hero 6?
No, I have not. No.
Okay,
it's
so
a good movie
there's
for little boys.
For kids, yeah.
yeah there's like a healthcare robot in there named Baymax, and Kiko did an interview with Baymax, but it
Okay.
was like the voice actor was there doing like live answers to it,
Right.
with like a video playing, and so he was like actually answering
Wow.
Kiko's questions, and it's
That's crazy.
it's
How would they
pretty
do
fun.
that? Like animate it live?
It was probably
filter
just like
somehow?
a looped video that they had to move and then had the real guy improvise.
Okay.
Yeah. But they had it set up pretty well because one part of the movie, he likes giving fist bumps to people. So when I asked him for a virtual fist bump, he was able to stick his hand out still.
That's
So
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So CineSnob.net tomorrow or whenever you're listening to this today, April 21st, 2025 on Ford. Let us know what you think. Tell us your feelings about it, whether you think we suck or whether you think that it's a nice improvement. So, hopefully it's the latter. And we'll go ahead and move on to the movies this week.
Here are this week's reviews.
All right, so first up this week we have Sinners. Sinners is the new movie written and directed by Ryan Coogler. And interestingly, a lot of people have been making a lot of observations that this is Ryan Coogler's first kind of like original movie in terms of like him developing a story and of his own. His first film was Fruitvale Station, which was based on like a true story, and then he went on to do IP projects like Black Panther, Creed, and now hitting his first original movie. And the simple synopsis of this movie is trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return from their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. So this movie is quite interesting because, the initial sort of like teaser to this movie didn't really hint towards where it was going, and then like the second full trailer kind of revealed the cards a little bit in a way that I kind of wonder how both of you feel about whether or not you feel like it's like they shouldn't have done that, because the idea behind this movie is that the setup is you have these twins who return back to their hometown after being in Chicago working for Al Capone. This takes place in like the 30s, and they end up wanting to open up like a music club with the money that they have from that experience, and they get like one of their cousins who's a really talented musician to come join them, and kind of set this whole thing up. And as part or during this sort of like opening night celebration, they get visited by as you can see in the trailer, vampires. And this is basically a kind of like a vampire horror movie, which again, you don't really get notes of at all until like kind of midway through the movie, but it is all over the trailers. It's all over the TV commercials. This is not a secret. It's in the poster where they've got like the eyes kind of telling of that. So I don't know how both of you feel about that, but I kind of feel like it might have been best not spoiled. But
yeah, the thing with you know how it is though. The thing with spoilers, I mean, people would have known by yesterday that that's what it was because of the internet. This little thing called the internet. I couldn't even imagine watching something like The Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah, Sixth Sense is like the go-to example.
Could you imagine? Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it really matters to me. I mean, I guess it just depends on how he executed it. Because of course everybody's gonna compare it to something like Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
Nothing happens, in the first hour or so when it comes to vampires, and all of a sudden they pop up. The one guy I did interview an actor from this movie who plays the gentleman who sells them the sawmill. He's from Texas, and he even told me he didn't know what the movie was when he got hired, and then they sat at the table read and they're reading through it, and then all of a sudden they get to the vampire part, and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
That would be such a surprise.
Yeah, he's like, "What movie did I just sign up for?" He didn't realize that it was a vampire movie until he actually started reading it. So
yeah,
and it's a vampire. No, I'm just joking. I was gonna make a joke and then it's a vampire opera, which is
yeah, exactly.
Imagine? No,
yeah,
just a joke.
So the main, I think, the first draw of the movie, I think, is that I mentioned that it's about twin brothers, identical twins, who are kind of like the main characters of this movie, and it is sort of a dual role played by Michael B. Jordan, which I think that like it's interesting because I feel like a lot of times in these dual role things, part of the fun of it is oftentimes when you get an actor playing two kind of distinctly different parts and tapping into different things.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like I kind of feel like in this one, Michael B. Jordan is sort of playing two sides of the same coin. I don't really think these characters are all that far apart to where it feels like two distinct characters, which I don't think that's his fault necessarily. I think it's in the way that it's written, but it's not your typical sort of like dual role thing where you're like, oh, this person's like giving two really good, interesting, separate performances. It's a really good performance of the same coin. Yeah.
Which of course brings you to whether or not you get a little bit lost in that, because I found myself like, okay, which one is this character? One's named Smoke, the other's named Stack, and there was a couple of points in. I was like, wait, I don't know who's who.
You have to track them by their clothing, basically.
By their hats,
one's in red,
by
one's
their hats,
in blue.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then I think also their relationships. Like that's when I started clearly understanding the distinction between the two, was when you realize like who has a relationship with which characters. Then you're like, okay, these are their stories.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah. In my kind of takeaway from this movie is that there's a lot of stuff that's like really well done and executed. I think visually the movie looks great. The cinematography is great. It has a great visual style to it. One thing that I think a lot of people will be talking about is the music for the movie. So the music was composed by Ludwig Göransson, a frequent collaborator with Coogler, two-time Oscar winner for Black Panther, and I think was it Oppenheimer? I think he won also for score. And the music is really interesting because it blends a lot of different genres. You hear like a lot of like bluegrass stuff, you hear a lot of blues stuff, you hear like some rock stuff that happens throughout. Especially, you know, going throughout one sequence of the movie that's like a one take that kind of takes you through the clashing or you know, sort of like bringing together of all of these things at once. And so I think that's really well done. I think the performances are pretty good across the board. Jordan is really solid. I think Haley Steinfeld is good in this part. I think if anything, the sort of like breakout supporting role here is Delroy Lindo, who is really fantastic in the movie as kind of like a blues musician. You know, gets to be funny, gets to be really entertaining and compelling. And I think like the script is for the most part pretty solid in terms of dialogue. It's funny, you know, it's a rated R movie, and I think does a really nice job like having it be R for a reason. Sometimes these movies are, you know, these kind of like very mild R movies, and I feel like this makes the most out of its rating for the most part, which I like. And then also a performance from Miles Caton, who is this is his first acting role that I'm aware of, and he plays kind of like the cousin of the twins, as a talented up and coming blues musician, and really hadn't done too much prior to this, if anything prior to this, and I think also you know, walks away with a good performance. And again, I think the components and pieces of this movie are really well executed. I think as a sort of like it's like as a period piece, you know, I think it really has like gets a lot from that 1930s era feel and visual style. And I like the idea of like these guys coming in and creating this sort of like you know, club, and it's kind of like, you know, they're coming from like some element of crime and clearly trying to escape something. And I think like that story is compelling. I think that the story about music is compelling and talking about, you know, the resonance of the blues and stuff like that. I think that when the vampire stuff starts to roll around, it fits and hits all the beats that you might expect from a vampire movie. It delivers on the blood and the gore. It does hit a little bit of like the generic sort of like tropes of vampire movies that like does a lot of maybe exposition that I don't think is necessarily necessary. But I mean, again, you've got the jump scares, you've got the like the blood and guts, you've got you know, some of the compelling stuff there. I think that the one issue I have is that I don't know that it ever meshes together well. I think that it feels a little bit like you're watching like two or three distinct different stories that I don't know ever feel like they overlap and come together. Where like the vampire stuff I do think feels jarring when it does start to happen and go in that direction. And I don't know that like the themes, you know, hit hard enough, because there are themes present here, you know, about race, and there's themes about, you know, again, like it's musical story and roots, but for me, I just don't know. I think that there's so many parts of this movie that individually on their own are like objectively good and well made and well done, and it's entertaining, and it's again, like, it's got good music, script, acting, all the pieces are there. But for whatever reason, I didn't feel like it sort of like smoothly integrated all of it into like a cohesive like narrative through line in the movie. To me, it feels maybe pulled, like it's a little bit pulled in a few different directions, and I think that keeps it from being like truly great. Even though I think that, again, the pieces of it are really strong, and I think the movie itself is good. I don't know that it hits that level of greatness though. But Kiko, how about your thoughts on Sinners?
Yeah, so I'm a sucker. See what I did there? For a good metaphor. And I think Sinners does that perfectly with the metaphors and what it's trying to convey. So it does a good job of placing us right in the middle of, a 1930s Mississippi setting, but, it really delivers this gut punch to exactly, the trials of the black individual during this time, and the things they're going through in terms of being free and what does freedom mean, and all that. You can dissect that so much in this, and I think that Coogler does a really good job of doing that. Again, like I said, people are going to compare it to From Dusk Till Dawn because of the way that it's kind of broken into two parts. With Robert Rodriguez's, I remember really enjoying the first half because I think Quentin Tarantino wrote it, if I'm not mistaken. And then it threw me for a loop, and I didn't understand why they had to throw vampires in it. This was complete opposite. I mean, again, we already knew that vampires were going to happen, but it blended for me a little bit better than you, Cody, just the way that it kind of put both stories together and used that metaphor in the vampire narrative. So I like the music a lot too. I thought it was a little bit overambitious at times, especially with that visual history that we got, that one take that you're talking about where they're going through kind of like the generations of music. I think we got that enough with the music itself. I didn't technically think that I needed to see it, but a lot of people are really liking that scene. I thought it was fine. I have to admit, like, I was watching it, I was into it, and then all of a sudden these tropes happened, and it kind of like, I was just like really disappointed in that, because he delivered, or he wrote such a unique piece. This film is doing something that I had never seen a vampire movie do before. So I would have thought that he would have done the exact opposite and avoided anything that had to do with any other type of vampire movie ever made in the history of cinema, which I guess was my hope. But he did go back to a few things like garlic and stakes through the heart and things like that. So I just wish that he could have found a different way to convey what he was trying to do with the vampires and not throw in some of those lazy vampire stereotypes to that. The one that did work, the stereotype or the trope that did work for me was the inviting in of the vampire. I think that worked because it was part of the story. I mean, there's no way that this movie could have really worked if that didn't happen. Vampires in certain TV shows and films need to be invited into a place before they can go in, and this one they use that to their advantage because they don't want the vampires to go into this juke joint. Jack O'Connell, we didn't talk about him. I think he did a great job as the villain. I'm not sure what else he's done before. You probably have a list there. I didn't recognize him because he had red eyes.
Yeah. So Jack O'Connell is in one of my like favorite movies of the last like 15 years, which is I think I got you to watch this. Do you remember the movie Starred Up?
Oh, right. Yeah, definitely. That's him. You're right. Yeah.
The prison movie with him and Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
That David Mackenzie made. Yeah. He's in that, and he's amazing in it.
He's really great in this. I saw an interview with Ryan Coogler where he's talking about Jack O'Connell and the red eyes. And he said that, the last Puss in Boots movie, was an inspiration for these vampires with the Big Bad Wolf. The Big Bad Wolf is one of my all-time favorite, animated, villains. That movie, I don't know if you've shown that movie to your kids, Jocelyn, but don't. That movie is really scary in terms of the Big Bad Wolf character. So I thought it was really cool that he said that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was was an inspiration to Sinners. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I love Jack O'Connell's part. He did a really great job as the main villain. I loved any of the music that he played with. There's the scene where him and these other two vampires put together. It was almost like Inside Llewellyn Davis, but with a vampire theme to it. So I thought all of that stuff really worked. The only other criticism that I would have with Sinners is that I didn't feel emotionally connected to any of these characters as they kind of died off. I wish I had felt a little bit more for specific ones, because basically, I don't want to give too much away, but a lot of people die, right? So as they're, falling like flies, I'm just like, okay, well, they're going to the next one. They're going to the next. I wish that there was a little bit more to those deaths, and with the exception of, one or two that you'll see in the film that were just kind of like, okay, well, they went there, right? So I wish that that feeling was a little bit more hard hitting for me when people kind of went down. But the tension was there, the music was there, the feel and the look of the 1930s Mississippi, of course, was there. It's a beautifully put together film by Coogler, and I really hope that it's directors like this that have so much talent. I mean, he started off with my favorite Coogler film is still now I can't think of the name.
Fruitvale Station.
Fruitvale Station. That was, I guess that's kind of it's based off of a true story, but it's a lot more intimate, I guess, than his other ones. People can argue with that. People love Black Panther and things like that. But I hope that he gets back to, or finds projects or writes his own projects where he can get to that level of storytelling that's a little bit more intimate. So I thought that Sinners did a really good job. Oh, one more thing, and then I'll throw it to Jocelyn. And I won't get into it. Jocelyn probably has a lot more to say on this as well. But that epilogue. Mm-hmm. I was at a solid grade for the entire movie. Like, I was just right there. Solid. I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden that epilogue happened, and I was like blown. I loved that last part of the movie. I just loved it. I love what they did with that. So I won't give too much away, just to let audiences know that there is some stuff that happens. I think right when the credits start. So there is
a mid credits and a post credits scene. Yeah.
Right. So definitely stay for that stuff because it really answers some questions. Because when the movie ended, I was kind of a little upset because there's one character that they just completely ignore, one of the most important ones. And I was like, okay, well, what happened to that person? And then, of course, it answers it, and it expands on that a lot. And I really thought it was well done. So, yeah, that's what I think of Sinners.
All right. And Jocelyn, your thoughts on Sinners?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the first half of this movie, I was just like totally into it. It's just incredible. Everything in the daylight, when they're like driving through Mississippi, sort of coming home, seeing people that they haven't seen, in years. It's like a big homecoming for them. And then with this like music behind it and just like little moments of music, I was super into it. And I was just like eating it up. I was like, this is like early Tarantino for me, like long shots, beautiful shots of just following characters. And like, I was like, where is this all leading? And then when I realized that everything that it was leading to was this like event at the juke joint that they were sort of putting together, I was like, that's awesome. Like it's happening. Like all of this was just leading to one big moment kind of thing. And I was super into it. I think the first time that I was like, okay, that's, I think, a bit of a mistake was when they did the visual representation through music. And I know, like you said, a lot of people are like really loving it, but it totally took me out of the story because I feel like up to that point it had been so streamlined, heading in a clear direction. And then they kind of take this like detour that I was like, all right, I love that they kind of are taking us through the history of like, music in this era or in this like, area. But I really wish they had just stayed in the like Delta blues type of idea, or like in that mode. What were you gonna say, Cody?
Well, I was just gonna say it is sort of a way to bring back something they introduced at the very, very, very beginning of the movie and tie it all in, which also helps reinforce, I think, some of the vampire themes as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's
that.
like it's kind of like a way to swing that back around within the movie, though I think it is It
a
is
little clunky.
It is. Yeah, I think
it
I
just
think
is
so.
a little clunky, and so that's the first time that I was like, okay, not super into that, but the movie just keeps going, so it's like, you didn't like that? We got a lot more for you because you haven't even seen vampires yet. And then I think the introduction of the vampires was so cool. Like the way that they did it, it was so creepy. And then there's like little moments where like, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say that vampires fly, but there's like a quick moment where you see like someone sort of catch air for a second, and it's just like so creepy, and it's so well done. And I just am like super into it. And then they tie in this like Delta blues versus like folk music, and both music is just like incredible. The cheesy white people folk songs are so good, and the great Delta blues music is just like so good, and it's just like a treat. You're just like loving it all. I was, at least. I was just like into it. Then when it became sort of like this like shoot 'em up sort of, I don't know, action-y movie towards the end, especially with Michael B. Jordan. I love him. Like, I'm a huge Wire fan, and he's Wallace forever for me. He's like one of my favorites, and he's incredible in this. But it's like he's like all ripped. It's like not a 1930s style look, in my opinion, like having like this ripped body and like, it just seemed like an action movie from today. And I was like, again, kind of taking me away from the era of like 1930s. So that's when it started really losing me. And then I really think the ending is just terrible. I hated the ending. I feel like they had a good ending, and then they took it a step further, and then it became like a Rambo movie almost. And I was like, no, I missed the movie that y'all were telling me before. Like, this isn't really, it's not like... It's just not doing it for me, basically.
When you say the ending, you mean the second group of people that come in? Okay.
Yes.
Feels a little tacked on.
100%. It's like the ending after the ending. It's like they had a perfect ending, and it was great, and then they ruined it, basically, with this tacked on thing that happens. So that's when I was also like, oh, man, y'all were doing so good, and man, this could have been an excellent movie. And then just a couple things just sort of like didn't ruin it, but... so I think that's all that I wanted to say. I just think it was, a lot. And I think it was really good. I think it took way too many swings at different things when it could have just streamlined it a little and been like an excellent film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved Miles Canton. He was amazing, and I can't believe that's his first movie. He's like the cousin that is just like, as soon as you hear him speak.
Yeah, his voice. That's what I was going to say.
It's just his speaking voice. You're like, wow, it is like powerful. So he's going to like sing amazing. And who else? Of course, Leroy Delroy. Yeah, he was incredible. And also the nods to like Delta blues was really cool. Like, I heard an interview basically saying with Coogler that like Smokestack was a Howlin' Wolf song, so that's why he named the twins Smokestack. So there's like all these little like nods to the history of this like music in this area, and it's just like really cool. And man, just for him to do this movie, like you can tell it's like a passion project, and he put his heart into it, and you can tell because it's just like a lot of fun. But yeah, just some editing I think was required.
Do you think that this movie is going to go down as one of the best vampire movies ever made?
Oh wow, that's a great question. See, and you mentioned Dusk to Dawn a lot, and I kept thinking Lost Boys, and I don't know why. I think maybe just the visual style of it. Like, I don't know why. I think maybe because Lost Boys is like, they're so cool, the vampires, and here too, they're just like, it's the 1930s, so you can't help but kind of look cool in that era of clothing. But yeah, I was getting like Lost Boys vibes a lot.
Sorry, but it's not surpassing What We Do in the Shadows.
I mean, what could? Never.
I think this is a very touchy subject for horror fans. If you say one thing, somebody else is going to be like, you're crazy, right?
We're not going to get into that.
I love vampire movies. I told y'all I went to the Cinematheque in France, and they were doing a retrospective on vampire movies. And I was a little like, well, really? And then when I was going through it, I was like, I actually really like a lot of vampire movies. I was surprised that I was like, man, these are all some of my favorites. So anyway.
Yeah.
Why are vampires the only sexy villain? Why can't like werewolves be sexy? Or mummies?
Because it gets a little bit into some gray area in terms of man or beast. you know, can't really
Okay,
get
that
too
makes
sexy with
sense.
that.
I just always thought that the ogre got a bad rap when it came to sexiness.
Oh yeah.
You haven't seen
that's
Shrek, I
kinda-
guess, the Shrek series. Well, all right. On that note, let's get
Yeah.
into our final thoughts here. So, yeah, I mean, for me personally, again, I can see what they're trying to do here and where they're trying to make their metaphors and how they're all trying to tie everything together. And I just don't know that it all clicked for me from a standpoint. Like I said, I feel like it is just a little bit too pulled into too many different directions, and it's successful in so many of its components, visually, musically, and with its performances. But I think that it doesn't always narratively and thematically come together or coalesce, and I think because of that, I think that it stands as like a really solid movie, and so I give it a B. Kiko, your final thoughts and grade.
Yeah, I think it thematically worked for me a little bit better than you. I thought it was very rich in that aspect. The metaphors all worked really well, and this is one of those films that you can kind of dissect many weeks after you see it. So it's going to bring up a lot of good conversations in terms of race in America and things like that. So I'm really interested in hearing a lot more as this movie moves forward, and to see if it resonates or it holds its place in people's hearts for later on in the year when awards contention comes around. Tons of people are saying this is going to be one of the greatest films of the year, but it is released in April, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. But we'll have to see. I do think that Coogler does a wonderful job with the narrative. I think he's a little overambitious in a couple of places, but I think overall he does a really great job. I just wish he would have stayed away from the tropes. I didn't have to see anybody put a garlic in their mouth to prove that they weren't a vampire. That really didn't make any sense to me. And then I wish some of the characters were a little bit more emotionally resonant than they were. But that epilogue, I mean, to tell you the truth, I was at a B, flat B like you, Cody, all the way through it. I was just like, this is a very solid movie. I'm enjoying this. And then that final
It's a cool
scene,
little twist.
that cool little final scene got me
Yeah.
up to what my final grade is, and that's a B+.
I think
All right.
especially because of the twist kind of fits into what the movie is trying to do, like
Right.
to really lift up the stories of these musicians, and it just
Right.
it's just like icing on the cake, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
and
it just says so much about the character, that specific character, and like the things that the unimaginable things that he went through. Probably after, we don't see him as after he goes to the situation that he's
Right.
put in to the point at the end of the movie that he's in on the stage. There's many decades of probably terrible things that happened to him. Just in living life as a black man in America. So yeah, I thought it was a really powerful way to end the film. So yeah.
Would
definitely.
you do B+?
I
You
was a
did a
B.
B+?
I was a big B+ for me.
Okay. Well, I think Coogler is definitely, you can tell he's a very talented filmmaker. I think I'm excited to see what he does in the future because he's extremely young. I think he's like a year younger than me. So I'm just really excited to see what else he does. And I hope that he hears maybe some of the concerns from people basically saying that it was a little too much because it really kind of took away, I think, from the greatness of the film was like that it took way too many swings. So if he can just kind of pare it down a little bit, like even just a little bit, like 10%, and I think it would be an excellent movie. So in honor of Michael B. Jordan, I'm doing a B.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So then Sinners B. No? Sinners
To be
B.
or not to be.
Jordan.
Ah.
To be or
Two
not to-
B's here.
2 B's and 1 B+.
Yeah.
That doesn't really.
All right, we all nailed it. Okay. So we will move on to our second film of the episode here, The Ugly Stepsister. So The Ugly Stepsister is a Norwegian movie written and directed by Emily Blichfeldt. And the synopsis says that this film follows Elvira, a As she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme, she resorts to extreme measures to captivate the prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. And what this movie essentially is it's a riff on Cinderella, and taking the sort of lens of a body horror movie. And so it follows this character who is basically her mother married into what she thought was going to be a wealthy family, but ended up not being the case. And now she has to, in order to kind of help the family along, has to have either her or her sister marry into wealth. And so, going through the process of trying to, captivate and get the attention of the prince. But lo and behold, she's a nuggo and she can't get past it.
Let go of my uggo.
Yeah. So this is a film that I think kind of follows, I don't want to say follows in the footsteps necessarily, because I don't think it's like derivative or anything, but I think it follows kind of like the same thematic elements that we saw last year in The Substance, where a lot of the movie thematically is about sort of like female beauty expectations and the lengths that people may go through for that, or even feel like they have to do that. Not people, women. Women are people. Hashtag women are people. And so I think that I will talk about the things I liked first, which is I think that, again, another example of a director here with a really nice visual style. It is, it is kind of like a period piece, and I think like the costuming and, the production design and everything really looks great. And it definitely has a visual style that feels unique. I also think that it has a really great sound design to it, and I think a lot of these body horror movies like really need that to work. In particular, there is this sort of like running, like stomach churning sound that takes place throughout a whole like a great deal of the movie, which is like, and I mean that literally, by the way, like literally a growling stomach. And it's really unnerving and weird and gross. And basically, this girl undergoes like physical augmentations, and then ends up taking something to that is sort of like, I guess, like a tapeworm kind of thing, in order to help with her, her physical figure. And as you might expect, that may not go the way that she thought it was going to. I mean, I can't really speak too much of it as a Cinderella riff, because it's been a really long time since I've seen anything Cinderella related. And so it's not the most fresh thing in my mind. I do think that the movie sort of has this really great visual style, but like a narrative that I didn't personally ever really lock into. I think that for me, the narrative just wasn't all that interesting as it goes along, especially because I do think it is sort of one note in its approach. And then I think the last sort of like act of the movie really plays up the body horror / gross out part of things, where things kind of start unraveling a little bit more as she gets a little bit more desperate, and as some of the things that she's doing to try to alter her appearance start to kind of backfire. And like I said, I think that the closest comparison that you have to this is something like The Substance, where it's hitting kind of the same themes. It's hitting the same kind of elements of the degradation of the physical appearance as it goes along. And my perception of the movie is that I feel like The Substance does it a little bit better, and I think the comparison is it's just too recent for me to not run it through that filter. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that there's elements of it visually that are really great. I think that it is, there are some things that are like legitimately hard to watch. especially for people like me. I don't like eye stuff, and there's a lot of eye stuff in this movie. And so
I was wondering
Wait,
about
what's
people
going on
with
with
eye
that?
stuff.
Let's get into it a little bit on that. What's going on with eye
Needles
stuff?
near eyes.
needles
you
or
don't
anything
like?
or touching eyes, like it freaks me out. So
Strings
Wait, you don't
being
have contact? You don't wear
slowly pulled
contacts?
through.
I never can and never will because I can't go near my
Touch
eyes
your
because
own eyeball. Oh.
it freaks me out. Yeah. So so there's a scene in which they like sew on like false eyelashes, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch out of the corner of my eye for this one because I'm gonna pass out if I watch this too much. So I mean, it's really effective in that realm where, again, if you're weird about eye stuff, it's super. It gets a real big reaction. And then, like I said, the sort of like guttural sounds that happen lead into, again, like some big moments of that. But for me, just like the story never popped. It just flat out. I never locked into it. I thought that the story felt like it was kind of like repetitive and kept on, repeating the same sort of ideas and themes and stuff like that. And so for me, it's like it was effective in its grossness and its body horror, but narratively just didn't work for me. Jocelyn, your thoughts on The Ugly Stepsister?
Yeah, so I mean, you sent me the preview, and I guess it wasn't there wasn't any speaking parts because all of a sudden it starts playing, and I'm like, wait a second, this is like not a language I am familiar with. I'm like, what are they speaking? So I went in without knowing anything, other that I wanted to see it from the preview because I was just like in a mood for some, Cronenberg lady stuff ever since Substance, and. So I think it was so like really cool how it's called The Ugly Sister, but
Stepsister.
Oh yes, sorry, the Ugly Stepsister. Thank you, because I slowly sort of realized that, oh wow, they're doing Cinderella like straight up Cinderella. Like it's not even like based on Cinderella or like a prequel to Cinderella. It is like literally they are calling the beautiful one Cinderella, and they do it really well. Like they set it up perfectly where you're almost on the side of the ugly stepsister. Like you're rooting for her kind of, because I think eventually they become, of course, horrific, but at the beginning you're really like kind of pulling for her. And then the movie just does a great job of sort of moving you through the actual fairy tale and kind of leaving it vague on whether Cinderella's even like the good person or the hero of this story, basically. So I really loved how that was all done. I think I would have liked a better soundtrack. I thought if this had been more like a Yorgos movie, Yorgos Lanthimos, like an like really in that era, instead of like more labyrinthy, which is where it kind of fell for me as far as like the 80s synth soundtrack, kind of like
I like that.
You
That's
like-
one thing
yeah.
did like,
I did too.
okay. I thought it made it a little cheesy. And yeah, it was just kind of like it was a little too on the nose for me for like a fairy tale. I wish it had been more on the creepy side, because it was like more of the leaning into the body horror, like this is a scarier movie kind of thing. Maybe I think I would have preferred it a little more, just because it does kind of drag on, like Cody said. I mean, when they invited her to a ball and they were like in 4 full moons, I was like, dang, like not even like the next full moon. Like we gotta wait 4 full moons. Like,
Well, they
that's
had to
a
give
long
her, they
time.
had to give her time to get pretty.
To get pretty. You're right. But still, that's like a long time. I feel like they could have done it in like 2. But especially with that damn tapeworm, like he was very effective. I feel like she would have gotten she could have gotten skinny in 2 full moons.
Well,
but-
she probably could have gotten skinnier if she stopped eating those cinnamon rolls that she was hiding in her freaking.
Oh my
whatever.
gosh, let's not fat shame her. Okay, Kiko. Anyway, so then leading to the ending and everything, I will say I think a few of the dance numbers could have been removed. I was like, another dance number, like for real, and it just was a little dragging, and that at that point for me. I loved what happened next. After, like, there's one sort of inciting moment, and then it's like literally just downhill as far as like the gross out stuff for the last like 20 minutes, I would say. And it was just so fun. And man, this actress, I looked it up, Leah Myron, she's incredible. Like, there's a scene where it is like the most disgusting thing, of course, that, you can think of. And like, she is just like, her eyes are so big. You are just like, wow, this girl is like crazy. Like, it's just incredible. So all that to say, it's a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed it. But yeah, just some of the synthy stuff I wasn't into.
Kiko.
Yeah, I like the music because it reminded me of the way that it kind of pulled you out of the that era, like Marie Antoinette did. So I like the way that they kind of did that. I also like the fact that the Cinderella character kind of looked like Lily James, and so I kind of like, it was almost like a nod to the 2015 movie. She even wore like the kind of like baby blue dress. So I kept on seeing Lily James. I was like, I wondered if it was intentional to do something like that. So I'll agree with Cody. Of course, I just kept on thinking of the substance to this whole thing, tied to like a gothic nightmare. So like he said, the production design was incredible, and then of course it hits most of the Cinderella beats. Of the story. Of course, you're getting this from the perspective of the ugly stepsister, which is the most interesting part of it. And like Jocelyn said, I think that it's kind of interesting to see if you're on the side of the ugly stepsister or you're on the side of Cinderella. What I think y'all are missing that you haven't talked about is how funny this movie is. I thought it was hilarious. Everything that was not maybe not the body horror stuff, but just the way that she was reacting to a lot of the things that were happening around her.
The French plastic surgeon was hysterical. I loved him.
Lots of stuff. I was laughing throughout a lot of this. So whether it was like, I mean, there's just so many little things that she did that were really funny. So the main actress gave me a lot of Mia Goth from Pearl type of vibes. So I really liked that. I loved that movie Pearl. So, but yeah, there's some crazy body horror stuff in this. The eyelash extension scene got me, even though I don't have a phobia of eye stuff like Cody does. Trying to stay thin kind of thing was pretty creepy. So overall, yeah, I thought it was a great gothic nightmare that they put together.
It's called emetophobia.
Oh, is it a metaphobia?
Yeah.
There you go. I don't know if I have a metaphobia. I'm not sure.
Emetophobia, or fear of the eyes, can include an intense fear of touching eyes or anticipating eyes being touched.
I just feel like a needle going through someone's eyelid is like beyond just having like an aversion to touching. Like that's literally like the worst thing you can think of.
I mean, that's fine.
I think that's most people.
Us
like,
emetophobics
don't like
are
having that.
particularly disturbed by it.
Go to the group and ask, okay?
Yeah, I think we should. We should ask more people if touching of the eyes is something that bothers them. You want to see me touch my eye right now, Cody? I'll do it.
Nope.
I'll do it.
Can you flip your eyelids back?
My father used to be able to do that. He would scare the crap out of me when he did that. He would turn the corner of the house and he'd have his eyes flipped. I thought that was the most disgusting thing.
Cody's like, can we please stop talking about this?
But yeah, so that's where I landed with the Ugly Stepsister. I thought it was a very well put together body horror film that we've seen. I mean, of course, it's a Cinderella story, so being able to put it back to that story was a really great take. I've seen most of the Cinderellas. I've seen the original cartoon, of course, or the original animated film from Disney. I've seen the Lily James piece. There's a couple of other ones I've probably seen over the course of my life. I've never read Cinderella, but I've heard that it's pretty violent at certain aspects. So I think that the way that it ends with the shoe actually happens in the original.
Yeah, I think I remember
text.
Hearing that too. Yeah.
So if that's true, I'm not sure. Maybe people out there can tell me. But if that's the case, I'm glad that they went back and kind of pulled from the original text. Is it Grimm brothers? Did they write Cinderella? I'm not sure.
Yes, I believe so.
Good job with that trivia knowledge.
So there you go. Yeah, but when it comes to body horror, I mean, it's a tough nut to crack, I think, but they do a good job. It's not going to get, people aren't going to be talking about this in the realm of the substance or anything, but
yeah. Well, all right. We'll get to final thoughts, and again, I think like I said, the body horror, the gross out stuff, I think is really effective, and I did, again, I did like the music. I did not, you mentioned it, finding it funny, and I just did not really find it funny. I just, again, was just not on the wavelength of those elements of the movie. And I do feel like, the more that kind of Jocelyn talked about it, the more repetitive I do think that the movie ends up being.
What about the plastic surgeon when he's like, "Wouldn't you love some boobs? Like, I'll talk to your mom." Remember? That was kind of funny. No, when the nurse. No, okay.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I mean, whatever floats your fancy.
I like the part where the mom's looking through the catalog of noses and she's like, number 7.
Yes, and he's like, "Excellent choice." French plastic surgeon. I'm telling you, he was the best part.
So I mean, I think the movie is like effectively gross and unnerving. I think it's full of visual flair, but it never quite like captures intrigue for me in the narrative of it. I feel like it is a little bit too repetitive. I don't think that it ever really locks into it, and I feel like it kind of hangs around for a long time, rehashing the same stuff, over and over again, like the same kind of points. And I feel like, again, within comparison to something like The Substance, which again, I think is a really hard comparison not to make, considering how big that movie was, that it was, an Oscar contender, and it was really kind of capturing very, very similar themes. I think it does so more effectively than this. So for me, it never quite got there for me. I'm giving it a C+. Jocelyn, your final thoughts and score.
Yeah, so I think even the not just the music, like the 80s synth stuff, but even like some of the dreamy sequences was giving me too much like David Bowie Labyrinth, and it was sort of like killing the vibe.
I didn't like this.
Me.
I did not
Thank
like
you.
the dream sequences.
So I'm saying it wasn't like, yeah. So I think I said the synth music, but I really meant a lot of the fairy tale stuff also, along with the synth music stuff. So that, just like I said, it just kind of killed my vibe, but I really was enjoying it, and I did really love a lot about this movie. I was like sitting there surprised, like I did not expect to enjoy this movie as much as I am. So I'm gonna do a B-.
All right, and Kiko.
Yeah, I'll just say it again. I thought as a gothic horror film, body horror film, it does a great job syncing that with the story of Cinderella from a completely different perspective. Nobody talks about the ugly stepsisters in Cinderella. I mean, other than the fact that they're horrible people. But I like what the director or writer did with this, from the eyelash extensions to the disgusting worm scenes. So that perspective was great. I like the way that they kind of did some of the music and kind of pulled it out of that era as well. And I love the main actress. I thought she reminded me a lot of Mia Goth from Pearl. So I found it very grim, very funny. And I am giving this a solid B.
All right. So we're going to move on to our final film of the evening or the episode, which is Sneaks. Sneaks is a movie co-directed by Rob Edwards and Chris Jenkins from a script from Rob Edwards. And I'm going to read you the synopsis that IMDb provides because I think it speaks to the nature of this movie, which is that when a designer sneaker unwittingly finds himself lost in New York City, he must dig deep into his soul, S-O-L-E, in order to rescue his sister and return to his rightful owner.
Oh, interesting. I'm surprised that that's the synopsis.
Yeah, so it follows a pair of designer sneakers who are one in like this raffle by a young basketball player who ends up having these sneakers stolen by a villain called the Collector. And during this steal, they get separated, and then one has to locate and track down the other, while the boy kind of just sits in the background for a while and doesn't really do anything, even though he's kind of introduced as the main character of the movie. So it's funny. So when we talk about this movie and the plot of it, so Kiko sent me a message about this movie, and I had forgotten about it. And when I started watching the movie, I picked up on something, and then I remembered, oh yeah, Kiko told me about this. And then afterwards, I messaged Jocelyn and told her about that, and she's like, oh yeah, I picked up on the same exact thing.
I literally had the exact same thought, so it's kind of funny.
So we all three had this thought kind of independently, which is that this movie is basically the same exact plot of Toy Story 2. It is a complete derivative thing where you have like, even down to like, it's like a big guy who like steals away this prized possession from a child in order to try to like make money off of it, and then they get separated, and then they have to try to reunite. It's the same plot as Toy Story 2, told in a we'll call it like much inferior way. So the movie follows, again, this kid who you think is going to be like the big main character of the story, and kind of is for like the first few minutes, and then it completely changes perspective to these sneakers who are kind of like these really nice designer sneakers who I guess they only made like one pair of them because this guy is like offering all this crazy stuff to try to obtain them and then tries to steal them. So in an effort to, I guess, well, I don't want to give too much away, but in an effort to basically like duplicate them from an even greater villain called, what is he called?
I guess he.
Who? I can't even
He's
remember.
The collector.
No,
it's
the
guy
forger.
that-
It's
The
the forger.
forger.
He's
The
yes.
forger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So it follows this like Toy Story 2 plot line, and it just does so in a way that is just like the most generic thing that you can possibly imagine. And the generic stuff like also extends to the idea that like this movie has a ton of stupid product placement in it, where like there's a kid with a bag of Ruffles, and then another kid with a bag of Doritos, and then there's a kid who has Spotify on his phone, and you can see the Spotify logo. So it's throughout. But here's the interesting thing about it.
But they couldn't get any shoe companies,
Well-
actual shoe brands.
So that's exactly what I'm going to say, because there are logos of Nike and there's logos of Converse, but throughout the movie. But none of these shoes as characters are like interesting looking shoes. They're all like generic like Walmart shoes. Like they're just, and it's such a weird like misfire to not have like iconic shoes. Like there are like a couple of like Nike SBs in the
Don't
movie.
shoe shame. You're shoe
But-
shaming.
I know. I like when.
Well, no,
Cody
it's this is a movie
caught up
about
in details like this.
well, no, it's a movie about sneaker culture. That's what the whole fucking thing's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
And
then
they
they're
show
generic.
they show Nike logos, they show Converse logos, but they don't have like really nice, interesting looking shoes. It makes and so like this
Let me
thing
just
is
interrupt you real quick from the female perspective to say you're absolutely right, because even like the heels,
yes.
like the girl, they're ugly. They're not like cute Louboutins, or like they could have done like a very nice like heel, but so I get it now, because I get it from the female perspective when I see the heels, where I'm like, those are ugly shoes. So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, and the problem is with the script, there is a bunch of like really terrible puns shoehorned into this movie, and just like the synopsis, and it's just like a lazy script. It's not funny. The voice acting, I think, ranges from being fine to like Martin Lawrence is like on autopilot here.
Martin Lawrence is asleep. Martin Lawrence is taking some sleeping pills in the voice.
Yeah.
Wherever they're recording a voice box or whatever.
Yeah, he could not be more disinterested in this. I think Anthony Mackie is actually pretty okay here as like the main shoe of the film. But you know, again, when it's not following its Toy Story premise, it just doesn't really capture anything about this culture that it is representing. It doesn't speak to like the scarcity of it, or sort of like the collection element of it in any major way. It seems just disinterested in it. And so, yeah, for me, I think this is just a very generic dime a dozen animated film that is, again, has a script chock full of terrible puns and it is just, again, like a rehash of a very, like, you know, if you're gonna make your movie copy one of the greatest animated films of all time, you're kind of asking yourself to fail there. So yeah, for me, this movie just was like not enjoyable to watch, not good at all. Kiko, your thoughts on Sneaks?
Yeah, I have no idea when it comes to smaller animation houses, like what their goal is in terms of like releasing a film, because you know you can't compete with the big Pixar and Disney and DreamWorks and things like that. So when a smaller, I don't even know what this production company is, to be honest with you, but they must just have like, okay, this is what our goal is. I know the animation is going to be great, but we have a deadline. We're going to try to meet it to get this thing out there theatrically. And so that's what they're going for, because they have to know that this doesn't live up to what animation standards are for a theatrical release. I mean, it just doesn't look good. I laughed one time in this movie, and it's not for a good reason.
I was about to say, I can't wait to hear, because
it's so
nothing
funny,
is funny.
because this is a sneaker movie. There's basketball players in it, and all the characters that are playing basketball just look so dumb. Like the way that they're animated playing basketball is like it's crazy. Like that does not.
You know what I did laugh is because like towards the end of the movie, the main character kid goes on like a hot streak in a basketball game, and they couldn't even make him swish a ball. It bounces off the rim and goes in. I'm like,
exactly.
Come on, like.
Yeah, but even just kids dribbling the ball, shooting the ball. I mean, everybody that's a basketball fan knows what a shot's supposed to look like, right? These animated characters are just like tossing it up like and kicking their back leg.
Oh man.
I was just cracking up at the way that the animated basketball playing was animated. I thought it was hilarious. My biggest peeve with this movie, and I don't even want to talk about this movie anymore. I just didn't like it so much. I just hated this movie so much. But they don't follow any rules. These characters are just in their own little world, which is great. Pixar has rules that they follow. Disney has rules that they follow. But none of these characters have any rules that they follow when it comes to like the way that they connect to the world around them. So like in Toy Story, of course, that the toys, they do their best to stay away from people's eyes. And then this one, they're just walking down the street with cars going by. And then in some cases they do see people, so they drop like toys, right? Or they do something like
they like close their mouths or something.
They close their mouths
and
something like that. So there's so many instances in that movie where these shoes are going to get found out that they're, these speaking
anthropomorphic
thing. Yeah. And I know this is such a nitpicky type of thing, but I mean, throughout the entire movie, it was just like, why don't they just create a set of rules for these shoes to follow and you just go with that? Because that's what they do with, any smart script. They're trying to fill these little tiny holes that would make people like me roll their eyes, right? So I think they failed miserably in that. Like the shoes do whatever the fuck they want most of the time, and they don't care about anything else around them. They're walking down the street in traffic and nobody sees them, and they're just doing whatever they want. And how many dance parties do shoes have? That's what I want to know. When we're all asleep, how many dance parties are these shoes going out to?
You've never heard the term dancing shoes? Putting on your dancing shoes? I mean, come on.
That was cute.
Yeah, I didn't see any white high heels from Saturday Night Fever, but so I just think that I've seen some bad kids movies in my day, and a lot of people, I hate this. I hate when people tell me this. That movie wasn't for you. It was a kids movie.
Right.
That's not. Give me a break. I mean,
there are
kids movies
standards.
Yes, kids movies can be wonderful. I don't know what we talked about before, but when it was we are talking about the Minecraft movie. It's just sometimes a kids movie can be a chore to sit through if it's not well written or some thought was put into it, and they're just trying to make sure that a 3 or 4 year old is just going to have a good time at the theater, which I guess I understand that's important, but at the same time they can at least like try to write something that makes any kind of sense. And this one, they didn't do any of that. I mean, the animation is third tier type stuff, $5 movie barrel that you go to. Remember the old $5 barrels at Walmart? They used to have the DVDs in. Mm-hmm. You could go and you stick your hand in there and pull one out for $3 or whatever. I mean,
Kiko's roasting it.
Yeah. So again, the Toy Story thing, I'm glad that we all followed that. It's pretty obvious. I'm sure everybody else is picking up on that as well. But yeah, I really did not. Oh, it hasn't been the worst kids movie I've seen, and I bring this up to my daughter all the time because I don't know if she was, I showed her this when she was little just to see how she would react to it. And it was Rob Schneider's Norm of the North. He plays a polar bear. If you want to see a F animated, like a grade F animated film, you have to see that one. But I'm not that far down on this movie, but it's getting very close, guys. The sneaks did not do anything for me when it came to being a, whether I'm not a sneakerhead, so I didn't have any skin in the game in terms of that. But come on, like the shoes, the eyes on the shoes were like 2D, I guess. The eyes bothered me too. I don't know what it was about the eyes. The eyes just bothered me through the whole thing.
Now you're just nitpicking.
I just feel like Kiko's on such a rant right now.
Yeah. So anyway,
you need to restrain yourself because you're. For people who don't have video, Kiko's like fuming and sweating right now. You just can't see it.
That doesn't mean I won't tell people that tomorrow when the site does go up, I do have an interview with Rico Rodriguez, who plays one of the shoes in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, don't dissuade that from checking out the first episode of Somos Hollywood, now on Apple Podcasts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, now that Kiko has come back to Earth here, Jocelyn, we'll pass it over to you.
Rico, I loved it. I thought it was excellent. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It is such a mess. It's just a big mess. And I think it's funny that you guys even went as far as saying like, oh, this is Toy Story 2, because I was just like, oh, this is the Toy Story idea. Like it's
it's like
verbatim.
It is directly
Right.
Toy Story 2.
Right. But I was like not even interested in being that specific about it because it doesn't make any sense, and this movie is just a huge mess. And that's only one element to it. There's like, it's got many things happening that aren't making any sense. And I know I hate to always say this, but like I don't know who this movie's for, because I feel like anyone who's into sneakers is going to be like a teen or like a preteen kind of thing, and I feel like anyone who's going to enjoy this terrible movie is going to be like a child. So I don't know who they were trying to target with it.
There's a lot of adult sneakerheads, just to let you know. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
True. That's true. But then again, why wouldn't you do something that was a little more appealing to them, that was like funnier? Because this isn't funny at all. Like it's not funny. There's no joke that lands, and it's like a chore to get through. And I think the last thing I'm gonna say is that I just didn't know voice acting required talent until I saw this movie, and then I was like, oh wow, now I get why, like, that it actually, they're doing something in other movies that requires talent, because it's just when you see this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like terrible. And it's sadly a lot of Martin Lawrence. It was just like he was like y'all said, he was like asleep at the wheel or something. I feel like sometimes they weren't even taking like his best takes, and
Yeah,
it's just,
right.
It's just awful. So yeah.
Well, all right. Well, then let's get into final thoughts and grades so we don't have to talk about this much more. So, so for me, Sneaks is derivative and just flat. It's an unfunny and very generic film that quite honestly never expresses any interest in creatively mining the subject matter. It does not have any interest in exploring sneaker culture or what makes it interesting, or the people who are part of it, or even like the threats within it, or the shoes that are part of it, or any of it. It just is the sneaker thing is just sort of like a vehicle for this very generic riff on a much better movie. It has pretty it has average voice acting, ranging as low as being pretty bad, and even for someone who is not ashamed to make a pun or two, for me this is just it's just I can't get behind it. So this is a bad animated movie. I'm giving it a D+. Kiko.
Yeah, just I'll echo you completely. You put Toy Story 2, put the Toy Story 2 script into ChatGPT, but don't bother to create memorable moments and take away all the humor. Instead of using toys, just make them shoes, and that's what you got with Sneaks. I don't think we're beating the voice acting enough. Martin Lawrence is terrible. Macy Gray as your wonderful high heel, she was just as bad. I don't know what she was doing with that voice, but it was not fun whatsoever.
And she
the
has
only
a
one
great
I can,
voice.
and
I
she
was
does
like,
have a great
really,
voice.
when I saw
yeah.
her name, I was like super excited, and then when I found out which character she was, I was like, wait a second, they're not even using like Macy Gray's voice, which is so unique. Anyway.
So I just think that this is a waste of time overall. I'm giving this a solid D.
All right, and Jocelyn.
Yeah, nothing redeemable here. I think even like, man, it would have been nice to just look at like some nice pairs of shoes. Like you said, if it was like on the female side, the heels were like really ugly and not cute. So it's like that wasn't even an aspect of it that you can enjoy. So there was really nothing to scrape up here. So I'm going to do a solid D.
One more thing to finish my rant. I just want to say this part. The shoes that are hanging from the telephone wire, that makes no sense because it's a pair of shoes that hang from a telephone wire, not just one shoe.
I said this to Jocelyn early on when I was watching it. There are a lot of solo shoes in this movie, and I don't understand.
Well, and the whole
they're like
literally,
socks.
Physically, you can't because it's supposed to be
Right.
like
Right. Yeah, exactly.
too. So like it physically,
they're like holding on with their little.
It's hung by each shoestring though. It's like tied together. Or something like that. Anyway.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's no way for it to have gotten caught on there. So
yeah.
Again, I'm nitpicking the hell out of this movie, but it deserves to be nitpicked because they didn't even try.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, then, that'll do it for this week. So next week we have The Accountant 2, the sequel to a movie that came out almost 10 years ago that I remember nothing about. And so I don't know if I'm going to rewatch it or just kind of go in blind, but that is opening. Additionally, we have On Swift Horses that opens. We also have The Legend of Ochi, which is one of the very few family films that A24 is putting out. So that one will be interesting. And then we might have a fourth movie. There's a couple of things opening, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how the making sure our website doesn't break throughout the week and that we can handle it. So if you want to reach out, you can reach out to us. You can email us at podcast@cinesnob.net. You can find us at CineSnob on Facebook. Also, please remember to subscribe to all of our podcasts on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, including this one, Somos Hollywood, and CineSnob Sessions. Also, follow us on YouTube, as well as TikTok, I guess, Kiko?
Well, I'm just waiting for you to decide if you want to do any kind of
dance,
booty shaking, or just let me know. We're gonna do.
Not on my free feeds.
I gotta save those for your
some
OFs.
eye stuff. Some eye stuff.
Yes, I only do eye stuff on this channel.
How much to get him to touch his eye?
You guys are.
That's
gross.
like it's a Black Mirror thing.
And then other than that, just another reminder that CineSnob.net 2.0 relaunches. By the time you're listening to this, you should be able to click and see how everything goes. So again, let's say that you don't want to be spoiled on Sinners until you've seen it. Go ahead and go watch it and then circle back. If you feel like you're definitely not going to ever see Sneaks, you don't have to listen to that part of the episode. You can just skip it and move on to something else that you see on the site. So let us know what you think about the new site by commenting on our Facebook page or sending us an email. And I think that's about it. So anything to add before we wrap up here?
No, I think we're good. I don't remember ever caring about a pair of sneakers as much as as this kid does. Did you have a pair of sneakers that was?
I had some. Yeah, I had some. One of the first like Allen Iverson shoes when I was a kid, and I have the first Wemby shoe.
You picked
cool.
it. So,
yeah.
Are you somewhat of a sneakerhead? But will you wear those Wemby shoes?
Yeah, I'll wear them. I'll wear them too. And then I have like the DeJounte Murray signature.
Don't be a collector.
Yeah. So, but I'm not afraid to wear them. I will actually wear them.
I know people that wear plastic underneath the soles of their shoes.
I mean, I'm weird, and I think that shoes are meant to be worn on your feet. So. But
what's a good pair of good heels then? If you didn't like Macy Gray's heels,
I said Louboutins, but
which are referred to in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, at least they're referred to. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's not even about the brand. It's just if they had been stylish or cute in any way, they were just kind of like basic
I mean,
shoes.
Jocelyn just wanted something French that she could lock into.
It just happens to be the hot one, but that it doesn't have to be the Louboutins. Sorry, just cute ones.
Yeah. Well,
all right, guys. Well,
everyone go watch Sneaks.
Good job.
All right. And on that note, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the CineSnob Podcast. To read reviews, interviews, and more, visit cinesnob.net. See you next week.